This is certainly an interesting title to this video here, but with a very plausible point. I've heard many accounts and stories from people who feel like they're being possessed when they sleep at night, and having these feelings where their body is not responding to the brain's commands to wake up, or move, or even fight it. It's a really terrifying experience for the individual. It's a phenomenon that occurs during early sleep, or deep sleep, or even right before you wake up. We've coined it sleep paralysis. But what is sleep paralysis exactly? Well, I'll tell you about my own experience with it and how it's still a bit of a mystery to human science. So sleep paralysis, in and of its title alone, is a temporary loss to the ability of motor functions, speaking or even falling asleep and waking up. Some thought it only occurred in people with narcolepsy or sleep apnea, but it can really happen to everybody. Everyone can be affected by this, some more than others, and I can tell you from experience that this is an absolutely frightening thing to go through. First, the feeling of it is insane. If I had to compare it to anything, I would say passing out is the closest it comes to. There's this tingling sensation inside your entire body. Your joints may lock up. All you see is just straight up darkness through your eyes. Or even more frightening, whatever remnants or whatever early dreams you were in the middle of, you'll start to see frightening shadows and demonic shapes within your room because now you're suddenly conscious. And like how I said the feeling was like passing out, it's weird that you feel like your body's contorting in some weird way. At times I even felt like my entire body was being bent in half or even floating off the bed. Now this is where the idea of feeling like you're possessed comes into play. Your brain is conscious, but your body is in sleep mode. Your brain has no control of your body, hence the idea of being possessed by a demonic spirit. This is some serious voodoo exorcist shit now. On top of your brain being conscious, partial remnants of whatever you dream seem to appear before your very eyes, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just there to watch as your body is not in your control, and it is absolutely scary. The experience itself only lasts about a minute to 2 minutes at a time, but other than that, you feel extremely vulnerable when it happens. And I can tell you from experience alone, some of these shadows that you see, where you think somebody's like literally standing in your room, these silhouettes range from, okay, that's a silhouette of a person, to what the fuck was I on to even dream of that? Then it made me think about all these stories of possession and how people at certain time periods in history chose religious exorcism over common sense. And part of that problem is the culture at that time period. There were plenty of periods of time in our human existence where religious culture has come into a big part of our lives and basically shaped how we think and what we're supposed to do as a species, and follow the 10 Commandments for Catholicism and Christianity.
You believe in God? No. Dead. You believe in God? Yes. You believe in my God? No. Dead. My God has a bigger dick than your God.
Yeah. Religious culture has cultivated the belief and fear of Satan and his demons, and how if you fuck up once in your life and disobey one of the commandments in a small or big way, Satan will send one of his demons to freak you the fuck out. And it's not just Christianity or Catholicism that cultivates this fear. Other countries also have their own way of representing how sleep paralysis affects them. Countries like Cambodia, they believe when a bout of sleep paralysis happens, they call it the ghost that pushes you down, where it's a dangerous visitation from a deceased relative, which is pretty wild.
Anastasia! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Get up, bitch!
Why?
In Egypt, sleep paralysis is described as a terrifying jinn attack. What's a jinn? Well, in our basic bitch American language, it's a genie. And genies in Egypt are typically entities which aren't inherently good or bad. They're just there to do your command. In our American culture, though, even in modern times, we chalk it up to demonic possession or even alien abduction. This is starting to sound like a 4chan forum suddenly, and many cases dating all the way back to the 1600s mistook this natural occurring phenomenon that every human has possibly gone through in their lifetime for satanic presences in people. And what usually happened was an exorcism, which really didn't help much. Hell, a lot of things from back then that were unexplainable were typically just misdiagnosed and cultivated, bullshit. When in reality, it could have been mental illnesses, anxiety disorders, insomnia, and sleep paralysis. But because of the amount of heavy religious influence and fear of the supernatural, people were jumping to conclusions to what it is. And that was the only explanation they had to offer, leaving the accused of this demonic possession to suffer persecution from the very superstitious people around them. And that is just so fucked up. In 2025, our modern take on sleep paralysis still baffles us to this day. Even though we've narrowed down some causes to it, such as sleep apnea and insomnia and narcolepsy, it could happen to just about anybody. Anybody, even people who aren't suffering from those three things at night. It still happens to people who have the best sleep hygiene.
What?
Yeah, you heard me. Sleep hygiene. Never thought you'd hear those words out together. So what exactly does sleep hygiene mean? Well, sleep hygiene refers to the average recommended amount of sleep that anybody should be getting a day or night. I know some of you work night shifts, so I'm just being inclusive here. So it's usually 7 to 8 hours a day. Like most things, there is no perfect sleep hygiene, but here's what I like to do as someone who suffers from this frightening and weird experience of sleep paralysis at night, and how I try to combat it. Starting with step 1, if you have a very active mind like myself, having too active of a mind could lead to sleep deprivation and bad night sweats. On top of that, our phones can cause this as well. Excuse me. So it's best to just throw that phone on the charger and forget about it until the next morning. Number 2, throughout my day, especially in the morning, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I do. I always hit the gym and bang an hour out at 4 a.m. Because usually most of the day I'm either sitting down or waiting around or hustling and muscling around in mechanical work. Yeah. Get the excess energy out of you. So make sure you're nice and tired and relaxed by the end of the day. Number 3, eat plenty of food. I'm not telling you to gorge yourself on crap, but eat something hearty and filling, because your body will then tell you, stop. I need to digest this for 6 hours and turn it into poop the following day. Your body will automatically put that huge hit of dopamine into your system, where suddenly you feel so faint and relaxed and tired that you could just drift off to sleep. Do not rely heavily on melatonin or even ibuprofen PM pills, because those will only do damage to you in the long run. Melatonin not so much, but definitely ibuprofen PM, because that shit will knock you out and you may seem like you're feeling accomplished because you got a good amount of sleep, but in reality it'll cause quite a bit of liver damage, and you definitely do not want that, especially early on in your life. So you want to try to get those natural dopamine levels up really, really high in your body so you can get a good night's rest. And that's really all there is to it. That's my best tips for sleep hygiene. I hope you learned something from this video, because sleep paralysis is one of those things where you wish you could film it, because it's like the perfect horror movie. You can't remember it entirely, and you can't even replicate the feelings of it either. It's just so weird. Even when your body voluntarily goes faint and you pass out, you have somewhat control over it. It feels like you're permanently passed out, and you're awake and conscious, but your body will not move. And that is the horrifying part about it. And then you start seeing all these fucking remnants of your nightmare or whatever dream you were having, and suddenly you think there's a home invasion going on in your own room. It's freaking scary. And it's just one of those things that every single human on this planet shares with each other.